Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Stars Draws every episode of South Park in order. We are doing episode 2 of Volcano today, and I do want to preface this by saying that I do have a slight bit of a cold, so if I sound a little bit congested or like my throat gets weird at any points, that's why. And I have a cup of emergency that I will be sipping from on occasion throughout this, if need be. However, we're gonna disregard that because content waits for nobody. Let's get into the episode. This episode, of course, features the boys, our 4 main boys, but it also introduces us to Jimbo and Ned, who are, perchance, one of the greatest gay-coded duos within the series. Like, I will just say it. I think they are gay-coded. They're the type that, like, historians would look at and go, and they were best friends, in my humble opinion, honestly, though. But yeah, no, I really enjoy these guys because they're somehow very responsible, but also very irresponsible at the same time. Like, they're capable adults who can supervise children, but also, while they're supervising these children, they're giving them guns and they're giving them alcohol and letting a child drink gasoline, but we'll get into that later. In this episode, we are shown a very surface level version of them, and we also do get the iconic, "It's coming right for us!" which is awesome. I love that line so much. It gets so hype in the games when, like, you're playing it, because in the Fractured But Whole, they can be, they're a summon, so you can summon them into a battle, the music stops, they shout that, and then just shoot up the crowd, like, whoever you're against. It's amazing. But that is, like, I digress from that. So Jimbo is obviously Stan's uncle, but I do find it funny that we get introduced to his uncle before we meet any other members of his family, such as Shelly or Randy or Sharon or even Grandpa Marsh. His name's Marvin. Marvin, that's his name. Even though Randy is introduced in this episode, but he's not named as Stan's father, so that's another interesting point. I do like that we get a lot of stuff fleshed out for Stan's family specifically. Like, his family is, like, located within the town, which I find really cool. It kind of, like, and especially, like, in, like, the earlier seasons of the show, it's kind of more obvious that Stan was the main character, and, like, more recently he's kind of been the main character, but Cartman kind of took the spot for a while. But he was not the main character of the show at this point in time. It's pretty much, like, set up that Stan is the main character, which you can kind of really tell based on the way that they introduce his family members most prominently in those, like, earlier episodes. So yeah, that's just a little side note. I do have a quote written down. It's, because Jimbo has, like, a line where he's, like, saying that, like, they're gonna, like, drink a lot of beer on this hunting trip, and Stan goes, "We don't drink beer," and Jimbo's like, "You what?" And Ned chimes in with, like, "I don't think 8-year-olds drink beer." And then Kyle just goes, "I like chocolate milk," and I just thought that was funny, so I just wrote that down. I don't usually write down quotes when I'm making these notes, but that was something that I did write down because I thought it was funny. I do also find it really funny that they're like, "It'll be nice to get away from civilization for a while," and then they just drive up the hill and they're like, "Hey, we're here!" That made me laugh. There's, like, a bit where Cartman keeps saying that he was in Nam, and then Stan says that you can't trust anything Cartman says, which is low-key an understatement, because that kid may as well be a pathological liar. And Jimbo gives 3 of the boys, that being Kyle, Stan, and Kenny, he gives them shotguns, and then he gives Cartman what looks like a artillery rifle or something. I don't really know, like, that much gun terminology. The most exposure I've had to guns is paintball guns and Nerf guns, so I don't know a whole ton about, like, what, like, actual gun weapon terminology is, but it looks like it's definitely like a heavy duty gun that should not be used for hunting purposes. And he gives them all beer, and then his only concern with Cartman aiming the gun at another human being is that he's gonna spill his beer. So yeah, take that as you will with Jimbo. Jimbo's a very interesting character. I like him. Side note though, I actually hate beer. I think it tastes disgusting. I don't really drink often, because I hate the feeling of being intoxicated, but if I'm gonna drink, it's gonna be either wine or a cocktail. or in old-fashioned, you can blame my dad for that one, because he's pretty much a cocktail dad. My dad likes to dabble in mixology. Anyways, this episode is like the first time that we see Stan caring about animals. He's unable to bring himself to shoot any of the wildlife. This is a character trait that we're going to keep in our back pocket for now, but it is very important to like future episodes. Like, he's genuinely so appalled by the hunting. He's just like eyes wide, mouth wide open in shock, and protesting things. He refuses to shoot anything until the end of the episode, so there's that. I already mentioned the running bit of Cartman pretending he was in Nom, but it's very funny. Also, something that is interesting is the prototype version of Randy, because he's definitely very different from what he would become. In this episode, he's very calm and still a little bit dumb, but he's not dumb to like the detrimental degree that we get later. It's just like your typical incompetence of an adult within this show. He's just kind of like, he's a geologist, but he doesn't really know what the seismograph does, which I find kind of funny. In this episode, he's just a guy. He's not even Stan's father at this point. He's just a dude who works at the geology center. There is a moment within this episode where Ned pours gasoline on the fire. That sets him on fire, because it travels up the stream of gasoline, and Jimbo thinks it's funny. He starts laughing and, like, cracks a joke. And I do think that's just their vibe. Like, they're clearly, like, very good friends. But it's a pretty good way of showing how idiotic the adults of the town are before we're even introduced to most of them. Also, this causes their truck to blow up, which traps them on the mountain, which is very important for the plot of the episode. After that scene, we get to see the mayor's office, and Chef is in there protesting about the food in the cafeteria, because the mayor apparently noticed that the food was way above standards of other schools, and was like implied to be like, we can't serve Salisbury steak, and Chef's like, what do you mean we can't serve Salisbury steak? What's next? You're taking away the meatloaf? It's like I made a comment in the last video about how like the food in the school's cafeteria is very different from like school cafeteria food that I've seen in other places, and they are apparently well aware of that fact. Also, Mayor McDaniels does not know the difference between a gynecologist, a geologist, and a geometrist. How the hell did she get elected? Apparently she went to Princeton. Did she actually graduate, or did she just attend the school? And what did she graduate with a degree in? Because you don't need a degree in politics to become a politician. Anyways, the volcano that is there it's very close to town. How is it that close to town and there's like no precautions already taken to make sure that the town would be safe from a potential eruption, or at least the townspeople would be safe from a potential eruption? For those who don't know, there's 3 classifications of volcanoes when it comes to activity. Active, meaning that it's actively erupting or erupts regularly, like Kilauea in Hawaii. There's the dormant categorization, meaning it hasn't erupted in a while, but it has the potential to, like the Crater Lake volcano in Oregon and the entire region of volcanoes over there. And extinct, meaning that it used to erupt, but it no longer has the capacity to erupt anymore, like Huascaran in Peru. Additionally, there are land and sea volcanoes and also different types of eruptions. Like, did you know that not every volcano erupts lava? A lot of only erupt rocks, ash, and gas, and those are called cinder cones. And magma volcanoes have different classifications, such as lava domes, shield volcanoes, composite volcanoes. I could go on. I used to be a really big geology nerd back in elementary school. Anyways, we don't know the classification of whether this was an active or dormant volcano, but judging by how they have Randy monitoring the seismic activity of the volcano, I'd assume it was a dormant volcano. And also going by the fact that Jimbo and Ed go hunting by the mountain by the volcano, and all the boys' parents seem comfortable with them going up on the mountain, I'd say it's safe to say that it hasn't erupted in a while. Though they should have been noticing seismic activity indicating an eruption for a few days before, at least, such as like earthquakes or other like off the charts like bumps on the seismograph. But again, I digress. I'll stop yapping about volcano semantics now. Anyways, on to the episode. Kenny drank gasoline, and Jimbo seems impressed by this. He calls him like a little bastard, and I love that. That's like he's impressed by that. What? That's gasoline! Also, Cartman introduces Scuzzlebutt, one of the little features of this episode, as a spooky story. There are later episodes that make me wonder if this really is just an urban legend, or if we actually got snippets of Imagination Land sneaking in before that trilogy was even dreamed up. But based on the fact that, like, other people within the town, like Garrison and Chef, know who Scuzzlebutt is, there is a chance that I think it's safe to say that Scuzzlebutt was probably an urban legend, like a Bigfoot type creature, but there is still a chance that he was thought up by somebody else and then came through from Imagination Land way prior to this episode. Though it can't be, like, too prior because of the guy who is his leg, who I'm totally blanking on. There's a lot of pop culture references, that are before my time. I was born in 2003, so I don't get as much of the pop culture, from the earlier episodes, but I get most of them from, like, around, like, season 3 and onwards, simply because of, like, the media that I consumed as a kid, and, like, what my family members talked about, because I am the oldest on both sides of my family. So I got a lot of, like, the millennial style, like, the millennial, drip down effect, I guess you could say. But yeah, I don't get as much of the pop culture references of these earlier seasons. So if I, like, make a mistake or, like, don't understand why something's funny, that's why. Anyways, if we go by the shape of the volcano in the episode, it's probably a composite volcano, which are, like, more like the, like, cone, not like a cone shape, but it's like the tall volcanoes, basically, the way I could explain it. And the eruption pattern follows this because this is the most violent type of volcano. It's the ones that have the very explosive eruptions. And a lot of times lava will flow out of the vents. Lava and magma are the same thing, but magma is before it reaches the surface and lava is when it reaches the surface. Also, the amount of lava that flows from the volcano after it erupts is closer to a shield volcano, which has less viscous lava than a composite volcano, which tends to have more viscosity to its magma within it before it erupts, and then it doesn't flow as freely. It can, but it doesn't often, especially since we see how far the lava travels. But I already said I would stop yapping about volcano semantics. This is a cartoon. I need to not do this. Back to the episode, there's a part where they, like, start singing around the fire, with Jimbo playing, I believe it was a guitar, and Ned is singing through his voice box, which I like that he sings through the voice box, even though he only can speak with the voice box. There's, like, a little moment where Jimbo starts crying to the song as Ned starts singing that someone's crying. It's funny. Yeah. Anyways, during this, Cartman disappears while trying to convince everyone that Scuzzlebutt is real. He's, like, dressing up as Scuzzlebutt, to convince them that Scuzzlebutt is real, because the boys did not agree with the story. They're like, that's stupid, that's not scary. But they realize that he's missing. Kyle goes to tell Stan, and then Stan's jealous because, Jimbo is paying more attention to Kenny. I do like that Jimbo takes Kenny under his wing, because Kenny's the only one who's actually able to keep up with a lot of the, like, I don't know, like, rough and tumble and, like, extreme lengths that this hunting trip is, like, actually taking into account. It was probably actually really nice for Kenny to receive some actual positive attention from a role model, considering what we learn about his family later on. Like, I'm definitely going to talk about Kenny's home life a lot more later, but his dad high-key sucks, and while Stuart definitely has his moments of being a good father, there is no way it is a stable amount of good fathering. So Jimbo being proud of Kenny probably meant a lot to him, which is probably also why he drank the gasoline in the first place, to impress this man who seems really cool. However, it is also really understandable how Stan gets jealous about this, because that is his uncle who invited him hunting and is spending more time with his friend than with him. That's gonna sting, and kids don't exactly have the same amount of emotional intelligence to handle this sort of thing that an adult would, and quite frankly, I'd be very upset as a 22-year-old if, say, my grandma started spending more time with my friend than with me. That's my grandma. I have dibs. Also, I don't think that any of the things that like anybody kills on this hunting trip are being taken for food. They're literally just hunting for sport, which is in line with like what we've been shown. So the mayor has been informed about the volcano going to erupt, and we get to see just how much of a typical politician Mayor McDaniels is. She's faking emotion for the camera and then asks to start over when she doesn't think her performance was up to par, which that's a very politician thing to do. Needing to keep up like a certain like air of like performance before the camera, in front of the camera, to like show how human they are, when in reality they're only there for ratings and they're doing it to boost their results in the next election. Anyways, Cartman almost dies while being disguised as Scuzzlebutt, because they shoot what looks like rockets at him, and then Stan almost shoots him twice. Now, this is a scene that I decided to draw because I wanted to do something that wasn't just like a shot-for-shot redraw of a scene in the episode, which was the intro, like the sign that I drew for the part 0 and the one that I drew for Cartman gets an anal probe. I drew shot-for-shot recreation of what happened there, but I wanted to kind of play around a little bit more with like posing and like giving something that's a little bit more like, I don't know, like an in-depth character drawing, which is what I did here. So I hope that it's not like, I don't know, jarring. Jarring isn't exactly the right word. I just hope that it's good. But yeah, I think that this is awesome, like an awesome scene, because even then, even when the pressure is on, Stan still can't bring himself to shoot something. Which is it's a very consistent trait that we're just gonna keep that in our back pocket. Like I said earlier, that's gonna be kept in our back pocket. We'll bring it up later. Also, South Park is apparently by a canyon, but that is never brought up again. Maybe the lava that flowed into it cooled and filled it up after they used it as a diversion method. They said that lava would flow into a canyon, but they also said that they needed to dig the canyon, so I don't know if they're digging a trench to lead to the canyon, or if they just straight up just dug a whole canyon. Anyways, they showed like a volcano safety video to the people who are going up on the mountain as a search party to search for the boys Jimbo and Ned, and it is a complete, absolute joke. Like, they say, duck and cover. That is not what you are meant to do when a volcano erupts. And that's the point. It's a very well executed joke, and I do appreciate Chef pointing out how stupid it is, though. That was very funny. During the time when the volcano erupts, we get a Kenny fake-out death. And then we get a second fake-out death. We get 2 fake-out deaths in this episode. And then we also get some stupid town people's deaths that they're following the safety video, which, SMH, they deserve to die if they're that dumb. Then the real Scuzzlebutt shows up and saves the day by weaving a wicker basket and just like, swoop, lifting everybody over the flow of the lava, which is kind of why I feel like he maybe have been a leak from Imagination Land, but also if he was just like one of like the Sasquatch Bigfoot creatures in the woods that's just like a really weird version of him, that would also make sense, because like a lot of different places have their own versions of it. Like, I'm from Florida. Florida has the skunk ape. Yeah, they're everywhere. And like I said, Chef and Garrison know who Scuzzlebutt is, so he might just be an urban legend. Also, rest in peace, Denver. That is where the lava flowed to. Randy just doomed them all. And that's why I'm saying, like, it might be, like the volcano semantics don't line up. I know I said I was done yapping about it, but composite volcanoes, which is what this one looks like, and looks what the eruption looks like, do not have lava that flows that far. We don't exactly know how far South Park is to Denver, but it can't be super, close, but it can't be super, super far, considering that the lava flows to Denver from South Park. But also, this is a shield volcano activity of a lava flow, because that is a very non-viscous lava. Like, if you look at, like, when the big island of Hawaii had the volcanic eruption that destroyed a ton of homes. That is a shield volcano that erupted, and the lake of fire, the lake of lava that I'm completely forgetting the name of, and I feel terrible about that. That's where Pele is. In a lot of in Hawaiian legend, that's where Pele lives. That is a shield volcano, and that is why the lava is able to flow as freely and as like almost like water. I don't know why this bothers me so much. It's literally just semantics. I need to stop being obsessed with volcano semantics. Yeah. Little things get to me. That is like literally has absolutely nothing to do with the episode and is not important, but I just wanted to make that clear. Anyways, Chef has an on-topic song about lava that is an absolute bop. Actually, it's a hot lava. It's a bop. Also, Scuzzlebutt seems like he's a good guy. And then Stan finally shoots something, and that would be Scuzzlebutt. And then Jimbo contradicts himself and gets upset at the fact that Stan killed Scuzzlebutt. Which, like, Also, Ned kills Kenny for real this time because he drops his gun after being like, I'm never gonna use a gun again. And he drops the gun and then it fires and kills Kenny. So, like, rest in peace, Kenny, part 2. And, like, there is a nice little moment of Jimbo saying that Stan's always going to be his nephew, and it doesn't matter anymore that he was spending more time with Kenny, because now Kenny's dead. But then he does, again, like I said, he contradicts himself from earlier by saying that you don't kill everything that you see, which is confusing considering that is what he was doing before, which I know is the point. But, like, for an 8-year-old child, it's not going to make sense when it's like, you don't kill everything that you see after you just got told that you kill everything that you see, and also that by shooting Scuzzlebutt, it was going to get him on, like, the cover of, like, the Hunter's magazine and, like, whatever. But, like, the adult stupidity sometimes can, like, get to me a bit, but it's still really funny. I do enjoy it. It's funny. But basically just, Jimbo, make up your mind! Like, my guy, dude, make up your mind! Anyways, that's the end of the episode, because the boys just say, like, you know what, screw hunting, we're gonna go play video games, and they go off to play video games. I like this episode, despite what I was, like, complaining about. I tend to get really passionate about things that, like, I really enjoy, which, like, I had such an interest in, like, volcanoes as a child, because I thought that I was gonna need to worry about volcanoes so much more than I actually needed to worry about them. It was volcanoes, sinkholes, and quicksand that I thought were gonna be my biggest concerns, when I was going out into the world when I was a kid. Like, I thought that at any moment, like, any random mountain could erupt. There were no mountains near me. Why was I worried about volcanoes? Sinkholes make sense, though. There's a lot of sinkholes where I used to live. And also, quicksand. Why was quicksand such a big concern as a kid? But I thought that volcanoes were going to be, like, a huge issue, so I learned everything that I could about volcanoes. And then I just ended up getting really interested in, like, volcanoes, earth science, rocks, and that sort of stuff. So I have, like, a lot of random knowledge that just, like, unlocks whenever somebody, like, brings up volcanoes or something like that. Like, it's just... I found a moment to yap about them, so I took that moment. And that's like majority of my notes was just me complaining about volcanoes. I don't know what I was doing. I wrote this... Sorry. Anyways, this was the episode. Good episode. Banger of a song that was in the episode. It was funny. It's still very, like, early South Park, so there's not as much, like, running pieces that we can see to, like, connect episode to episode to episode. It's more so, these are the first pieces of the puzzle that are laying the groundwork for future arcs. That's why I said, like, we need to put Stan caring about animals in our back pocket, because that's gonna come up again later. Or, like, Cartman, like, making shit up. That's gonna come up again later. And, like, being deceitful. Like I said, it's gonna come up again later. And also, like, Jimbo and Ned's dynamic is going to come up again later. Randy is going to show up again later. And oh boy, is Randy going to show up again later. I have beef with Randy sometimes. I love rewatching, like, the early seasons of shows because of this. I can see, like, the groundwork being laid for future character arcs, or, like, things that I know that are going to become important later, or things that, like, don't exist anymore. Like, old Randy doesn't exist anymore. But, like, that's just like the cool part about this, and that's one of the reasons I was very excited to do this series. Anyways, here's my drawing. I hope that you like it, and I'll see you guys next week for the 3rd episode of the show. Peace out.